Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Minecraft episode. I'm going to show you guys all about the history of American treatment of Native Americans.
Before the arrival of Europeans, the Native Americans pretty much had the whole continent to themselves. Little did they know, however, the Native Americans were about to lose it all. So take one last good look around, buddy. Let's watch as a character that's supposed to be Christopher Columbus arrives in America in 1492. As you can see, this character that's supposed to be Native American looks conflicted. Later on, the American colonists started to trade with the Native Americans. They traded precious metals, furs, food, and much more. Unfortunately, the American colonists started to demand too much, which made the natives mad. And when the American colonists didn't get what they wanted, they attacked. Intertwined with the attacks from American colonists, numerous other diseases were spread over the Native Americans, including the bubonic plague, chickenpox, cholera, the common cold, diphtheria, influenza, malaria, measles, scarlet fever, sexually transmitted diseases, typhoid, typhus, tuberculosis, and pertussis, or whooping cough. But the Native Americans weren't just gonna let some randos abuse them, so they fought back with their bow and arrows, killing off the American colonists and their horses. On October 3rd, 1763, King George III created the Proclamation of 1763, which forbade any settlement west of the Appalachian Mountains. This created a hiatus in conflicts between the Native Americans and the colonists. However, this brief pause did not last very long once the American colonists gained their independence and started to expand westward. Here is a colorized version of American colonists brutally burning down a Native American village and killing people. Here's a small clip of a American colonist brutally killing a very durable baby Native American. In the year 1830, President Andrew Jackson created the Indian Removal Act, which sent Native Americans westward onto the Trail of Tears. The Trail of Tears is a very dangerous, treacherous journey, and the Native Americans would have to travel nearly 1,000 miles, which would take about 2 months. Unfortunately, most Native Americans died on the Trail of Tears. Fast forward 39 years, and the Americans would move the Native Americans off the Great Plains in order to build the Transcontinental Railroad. As Native Americans were constantly being pushed westwards, American minorities were forced to do the hard work of building the actual railroad. In doing so, they also pretty much exterminated the plains buffalo. Here's a short clip of Brandon riding the railroad. In 1887, Congress authorized the creation of the Dawes-Severalty Act, which authorized the President of the United States to survey American Indian tribal land and divide it into allotments for individual Indians. So basically, they were being placed on reserves. But some Native Americans actually liked this, like this guy here. In conclusion, the American takeover of Native American land was immoral, but ultimately benefited them in the end. Hey guys, before this video ends, I want to give a quick shout out to Hyro Bedoya and Brandon Chung for the moral support and fantastic ideas.
Alright, everybody, thanks for watching. And remember, smash that like button. And if you aren't already, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.
Alright, so that was our final project on our thesis, which was that the takeover of American Indian lands was immoral, but that they ultimately benefited from it in the end. I'm going to give some facts and figures as well as analysis on the overall timeline in which this all occurred. So to start off, as we all know, in the pre-Columbian era, there were a myriad of thriving cultures already established in America before Columbus, as a multitude of different tribes were scattered across the map. Different lifestyles include the nomadic hunter-gatherer based styles in which the groups could travel about, as well as the more common settled villages where agriculture would take place. The different tribes had different languages as they were geographically separated, but also were connected through complex and extensive trade networks. They had their own religion, which was shamanistic and believed in the spirituality of the land and nature around them. The discovery of the Americas by Columbus in 1492, of course, led to the exchange of different foods, cultures, and ideas, but also the spread of disease as well, which decimated the native population as their numbers dropped from approximately 80 million to approximately 1 million. In addition, conquistadors such as Hernan Cortez, who famously overthrew the Aztec Empire, came in and slaughtered many of the people currently living there. The Spanish then implemented the encomienda system of labor, as well as the setup of the racial caste system with the mestizos. Missionaries also journeyed to the Americas in an attempt to convert the natives from the religious to Catholicism. All of this obviously being extremely immoral, as they basically killed all of them, enslaved the rest, and then forced them to change their beliefs. Now entering the colonial era, with the British colonists and their fight with the natives in things such as the Powhatan War, Pequot War, as well as the King Philip's War, all of which were territorial conflicts, and as you know, the natives wanted to keep their land and the colonists disagreed. The natives also got dragged into the conflict between the French and the British, where the British were like, hey, natives, help us out and we'll be good to you, so they did. And then the British put up the Proclamation of 1763 so that the colonists would stop taking the natives' land. And then the colonists went and had the revolution, so, well, there goes that. Now, fast forward a little bit, and we have Andrew Jackson, who implements the Indian Removal Act, which forced the natives off their land in exchange for the unsettled territory in the West. The Cherokees tried to resist, and then were forcibly removed in what later became known as the Trail of Tears, where thousands of natives died trying to make the journey across the nation. Following the Mexican-American War, we had this thing called the Fort Laramie Treaty, which basically said that the natives who agreed to live on reservations that they were given could stay there undisturbed forever. But then, as Manifest Destiny says, hey, we should move westward and take that land back anyways. So America began constructing the Transcontinental Railroad and moving westward, leading to the First and Second Sioux Wars. Horrible bloody conflicts that especially happened, such as the Sand Creek Massacre, in which 300 peaceful natives that were just doing what they were told by the U.S. were confused to be violent natives and were actually slaughtered by the U.S. Army. All of which, of course, is at the fault of the U.S. Native leaders such as Nez Perce and Crazy Horse tried to fight back to maintain their lands, which the U.S. had promised was theirs in the first place. And in Custer's last stand, they'd actually managed to land a blow back on the U.S. The U.S., of course, was outraged that the Indians were trying to defend the land that they had given them, and then unloaded the full force of the U.S. military upon them, ultimately resulting in the Sioux and Apache surrender. By the end of the 1800s, the westward expansion had resulted in the decimation of the buffalo population, along with the Dawes Act, which said that the natives had all their land seized, redistributed, as well as deciding the new rules for natives to become citizens, which entailed 25 years of citizenship, which was actually longer than how long other immigrants coming in at the time had to take to become citizens. In 1953, the trust relationship with the Indian tribes was terminated. And basically what this means was that the terminated tribes were then subject to state laws and that their lands were sold to non-Indians. Eventually, Congress terminated over 100 tribes, most of which were small and only consisted of a few hundred members at most, but 100 times 100 is kind of a lot of people. So long story short, the U.S. forced the natives off their land and gave them new land in exchange, but then wanted that land back, and when the natives decided they didn't want to give that land back, the U.S. got mad and used force to alienate them in their own homeland. Quite horrid, if you ask me. Now, of course, you'd ask then, how could this benefit them at all in any way? Well, during the Civil Rights era, the natives established the American Indian Movement, or AIM for short, and through organized events such as the Trail of Broken Treaties and the Longest Walk, which resulted in the restoration of terminated Native Nation rights. The abolition of the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the establishment of immunity of native nations from state commercial regulation taxes, trade restrictions, the protection of American Indian religious freedom and cultural integrity, and the affirmation of health, housing, employment, economic development, and education for all American Indian people. The Voting Rights Act, Executive Order 11-399, and the Indian Bill of Rights all contributed to getting Native Americans equal rights, and in modern times they are now essential contributing members to the nation. So, in conclusion, while the actions done upon them have truly been terribly immoral, they've made it through and have ultimately emerged stronger.